brought to you by the QCCS Mackay Cutters.
Welcome to Change the Game podcast, episode 5. We're talking today about reducing violence in our community, especially within the Mackay community. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet upon today, the Yui people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to both elders past, present and emerging. My name's Mitch Cook from the Mackay Cutters, Operations Manager, and I'm very lucky to be sharing the microphone today with Sergeant Nigel Dalton from the Mackay Police Force. Welcome, Nigel.
Thank you very much, Mitch.
All right, so 37th year within the force. That's very impressive. I'm definitely younger than that, so you've been in the police force longer than I've been alive. So I guess, the conversation today we're going to have about reducing violence in our community. You're going to be sharing a lot of your experiences. Thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome. It's lovely to be here and a great initiative.
So we do have, we have had in the past, over the months, a campaign about having a assault-free zone within the Mackay community. Can you just tell us a little bit about why that has been important to raise awareness around our community and the important issue about changing those behaviours?
Yeah, that's right. Basically, an assault, any assault can turn into an absolute disaster. Mm-hmm. And we came up with this idea about 2018 to say, how can we get another slogan within the police to allow people to basically say, we don't tolerate assaults in our community. Now, tolerate's a big word, and it doesn't really sort of run very well on a slogan. So I was sitting down with some police officers. We were doing some training, and there was some scenarios going on. We all had to wait for those scenarios to go on. And I said to the frontline officers, I said, come on, let's think of a slogan. So we sat around, about 18 or 20 of us, just banding ideas around. And at that time, we had the smoke-free zones just being developed in pubs and clubs. Yeah. And I said we should have that because we really want to be able to say we just have no reason to fight in this place, no reason to have an assault. So when we went through the process, we came up with the assault-free zone idea. I took it to some learned friends around the community who I've worked with for some time, and I said, "What do you think? This is a great idea, lovely. But if you had that at the entrance to a pub or a school or a hospital or something, assault-free zone in here, but out here, you can do what you want." So we added our community is as an assault-free zone, and that's our aspiration. That's where we want to be. We want to say at the end of a week, we haven't had anybody hitting anybody else. It's a big ask, but that's where we're heading.
And talk us through a little bit of those statistics that have prompted you to act in this way over the last little period and probably more recently now.
More recently, we've reinvigorated the campaign, and we've noticed that our assault rate is going up quite rapidly in Mackay. That's a Mackay district, so it's all the way from Bowen to St Lawrence out to Claremont, so it's a huge area. But we're having spikes of assaults happening throughout that whole area. And in the past, we sort of almost concentrated those assault issues in our licensed premises or our safe night precincts. Mm-hmm. And it was quite an easy fix for us because we just layered more and more police in there. Security staff were trained better, and the people who worked within the licensed premises were taught how to identify some of the problems. But now we're seeing those assaults happening in most varying places. They're not necessarily happening in the safe night precincts or the licensed premises. They're happening 54% of the time in people's homes. We aren't there. We can't layer ourselves into people's houses to prevent this happening. Then we looked at the figures a little closer, and we actually saw that most people would immediately think that the home assault is connected to a domestic family violence situation. Now, there are quite a few, and it's very, very sad, and it's definitely something we want to change. But we noticed that there are a lot of assaults happening where the two people involved were not in any relationship whatsoever. They weren't family, they weren't in a relationship, and they were happening because there was a party there, or it was some housemates who were living together, or it was some. In one example, there was a man who was given some information by his daughter about some social media issue. So the man went to speak to the other girl's father, and they had a fight on the doorstep. We can't stop that happening, and we really want the public to come on board and say that just isn't right. As I said, one assault could be a fatality. And we know that when somebody goes into the trauma wards in hospitals, they don't fix the brain. They can only stabilize it. So whatever the situation is, once that person has hit the ground and hurt their head on the pavement or the concrete or whatever it might be, or the kitchen bench, they can't fix that. It's only going to be changed by stabilization.
Yeah, so we need to change behaviours. So how can we do that? What is this campaign teaching people to? Is it step back and think? Is it whether it's drinking too much alcohol or drugs?
Yeah, there's obviously many factors into why somebody assaults somebody else. But what we've seen in Moranbah, we had a situation outside a pub, late one night. There was a fight. What we actually heard from the people giving the evidence was people were saying, this is an assault-free zone, stop that. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to generate in our community. We want people to say, we don't want that here. Now, to throw a punch takes a moment's anger, and it can happen so quickly. We want people to start thinking well before that and say, okay, can I walk away and chill out in this matter? Can I move away from this situation, not get physical? And maybe the alcohol or maybe the illegal substances which might be inside that body are reducing the ability of that person to argue. Because we all argue. We have a discussion, or it could be called an argument. We don't all get to the point where we have to hit each other. Yeah. Add alcohol into your system or illegal drugs, you can change your ability to argue for the negative. So you just turn to violence.
Yeah. You mentioned DV before, so Domestic Violence Awareness Month is May. Yeah. So we are in May right now, and it's great to raise awareness about that because, as you mentioned, you aren't there in the moment. But what is DV Awareness Month in particular, May? How are we raising awareness, and how are we changing?
Well, firstly, I'd like to make sure that your listeners and viewers don't understand that DV and family protection is all about assaults. Mm-hmm. It's far more than that. There's coercive behavior. There's that sort of isolating one partner from their friends, their community. All sorts of things make up domestic and family violence. And assault is obviously the very easy one for us to identify. We go to the scene of somebody's got a cut or a bruise. Well, we know what's happened. It's not difficult for us to work that out, but we do have to get better at identifying the coercive material. Draw your attention to a video that Queensland Police have just put out, which is demonstrating how difficult it is for police officers to do their job sometimes. We want to make sure that the public are really confident and happy to come to us to report. But we know that reporting is sometimes the biggest step that person could make in their lives. Because basically they could finish a relationship. And all relationships start with love. And if you're falling out of love, it's one of the hardest things to deal with. And then going to tell some police officer you may never have met before at the front counter of a police station, that's tough. So we produced this video, and it's a powerful video where it talks to the frontline officers, talking about their shock at going to their first domestic violence situation. And then it's talking about what we're doing in the background now, trying to make sure that all referrals are as best as possible followed up, and we get the right outcome for both parties. And we protect the aggrieved person. The aggrieved person is the person who's the victim in the situation. We protect the family. We protect the kids, in-laws, and cousins, and so on. So that video really does talk straight to the heart that every single police officer who goes out every day could be involved in dealing with a domestic violence situation. And we might have to really stretch our abilities to understand what the best way forward is. Mm-hmm. We try our best, we get really well trained, but you know what? Sometimes we do make mistakes. And that's recognized in the video. But we want to make less and less mistakes. We want to show the public that we are at best doing absolutely our best. So
that extra support, what are some examples of the support network that is created around those victims?
Yeah, well, there's the Women's Centre here in Mackay is 21st century ideal situation where they have counselors, they have psychologists, they have child psychologists who can talk through with the victim, the aggrieved, in those situations. If it's a female, then we've got Relationships Counselling Australia, and we've got Lifeline, Men's Line. There are national bodies which are available. But even just letting your listeners and viewers know that when a domestic violence situation is happening, and it could be two officers in a two-officer station up the valley, for example, and they attend that thing, they may not know the answers. We now have somebody, an expert in Brisbane at headquarters, able to be spoken to on the phone, and sometimes they're actually monitoring the incident as it's going on our Q-Light systems. Yeah, so we're doing absolutely everything we can, because the police officers may be focused on the very obvious when they get to the scene, but the obvious is not necessarily the crux of the problem. Now, admittedly, the assault is a nasty, horrible thing that we will have to deal with medically, and the person will have to recover from that. But what we want to look at is how have they got to that point? What has been happening? Do we need to actually maybe educate and look after the family?
And we've just gone through COVID, or we're still in the midst of COVID-19, but especially last year, was there a rise in domestic violence?
There was certainly a rise in the need for people to get help.
Okay.
The statistics are a little bit difficult to rely on all the time, but we were certainly very busy through the COVID period, and those situations rose their head probably because we were in closer contact with each other for longer periods of time, and hopefully those people have now got the help they need, and their relationship is going on. Just because a domestic violence order is taken out doesn't mean it's the end of the relationship. It's just maybe a stopgap. It's just that finger in the dike that says, hang on a minute, you need some help here.
Yeah.
Go and get that help, and the relationship can carry on.
So change, and this is the point of why we're doing this podcast, and to change the game, change behaviours and people's thinking. So how has this campaign been promoted within the Mackay and district community?
Well, it's already been promoted through every school.
Yep.
Every high school's got material that they have able to display. Canelands have very kindly put their on their big visual boards the assault-free zone logos. The guys up in Northern Beaches Bowls Club, again, they've come and said, yeah, we'll display ours for free. We don't have an endless budget. We're not a commercial thing where we can make money out of advertising. We just we just push it out there into the community. So we're handing out cards as we're doing random breath tests now. So we're actually giving somebody, once they've passed the random breath test and they're negative, we hand them an assault-free zone card, so that's actually going back into the house. We've had bags like you buy your Bundy or your Bundy rum or your bottle of wine from the bottle shop with the logos on those, so they're actually going back into the home, because we're recognizing that's where we need to get the message. We need people to be reminded that this is an assault-free zone. Our community is an assault-free zone. So
the signs and the symbols is what's making the biggest impact.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and when we looked at the Moranbah situation, not just that one fight I mentioned earlier, we looked at their situation when we first launched the campaign. They had something like 19 assaults in I think it was 2 or 3 month period. When they actually had pushed the information out to the community and so on, into all the clubs, into the town square. If you go into Moranbah, you'll see assault-free zone signs everywhere. They then had 1 assault in the next 3 months. Yeah, that's a great change, and that wasn't just because it got cold or anything like that. We put all those environmental factors into the assessment, and Adam Dyer and his team, the officer in charge of Moranbah Police Station, he did a fantastic job. He took it out to the leagues clubs, he took it out to the workers clubs, and they were just so happy, to promote things to make sure their community was safer, because it's a very transient population in Moranbah, but everybody has to live together for at least a few nights.
Yeah. A few nights. A lot of fly in, fly out.
Yeah, that's right.
This area, Mackay, and in the district. Are we seeing more issues from fly in, fly out, or is it more issues from people who are more connected to the community? I
don't think we could point our finger at the fly in, fly out miners in any particular way. There are some that do get involved in assaults, but I think where we need to be a little bit more cautious is actually bucking exactly what I said earlier, that there's no Bali anymore. There's no Fiji. There's nowhere you can go offshore and release your behavior on other communities. People are coming to Airlie Beach.
Yeah.
And they're coming to Airlie Beach from all over Australia. And that's great for tourism. It's fantastic. But we are seeing a number of people who are those fly-in, fly-out tourists who are affecting our assault figures there. And we need to start trying to work on them because they're not part of our community. They are just the people who might head off for a weekend with the boys or girls or whatever it might be. And, it's a fantastic place to be. Airlie Beach is top class. I mean, I come from the UK. People can't believe I'm only 2 hours away from one of the best tourist destinations in the world.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
It is. And for those people to come to our area and start behaving in a bad way is not good.
So larger groups or smaller groups? What?
Well, yeah, I don't want to be specific in that because, when it comes down to it, it's one person doing that one assault. It's not a group of people all assaulting at the same time. They may follow in later, but it's the security staff, it's the police officers who are getting assaulted as much as anybody else. And, that hurts us. That hurts. Whenever we see a security guard or a member of the staff or the hospital or an ambulance officer or a police officer being hurt, that's us. And we don't like that.
Definitely not. So, people within our community, what can the broader Mackay community do to help raise further awareness around this? From the good work that the guys are doing down at the police force and everywhere else, the Mackay Hospital. How can the rest of us help change behaviours and raise this awareness?
Well, use that phrase, our community is an assault-free zone. If you need any merchandise for your business, for the place that you work or the place that you spend most of your time, just contact the crime prevention officer at the police station. We've got plenty to give out. If you get one of those cards or you want a set of those cards to put on the fridge or have around your home, absolutely, we can push that out as much as we can. The assault-free zone, we put in for an award by the Australian Institute of Criminology. And 2019, it actually got an award. And the reason it got that award was not because necessarily the design is awesome or anything like that, although I think it is. It was because it's transferable so easily, so quickly. So we can print that merchandise out, and it actually gets into the communities. It's like this is a 60-kilometer area. Don't speed. This is an assault-free zone. It's very easy to understand. There's nothing scientific in it. It's just purely saying, people, this is an assault-free zone. We don't tolerate that sort of behaviour here.
Yep. I'm curious, how have you seen, sport and, or in particular, rugby league, make their changes with assaults, on field, even off field?
Yeah, that's right. Look, personally, I came from the UK 2002 to Australia. I've been police officer for 19 years before that in the UK. And my son was growing up and loved sport. He loved the NRL. He loved the Origin, that sort of thing. He was a Queenslander. As soon as he landed here, he was a Queenslander. But what shocked me was the advertising prior to a big match, take Origin, for example, where they would just highlight the assaults that had happened outside the game on the field. So not part of the push and shove to get the ball to the right end of the field to get, to put it down. This was because an argument or because a decision had been made in the wrong way, in their view. And there was a fight, and it was called the biff. And I was shocked to see that there was that promotion of the game through television. Move forward almost 20 years, that's reduced dramatically. And there's the rules within the game, I understand, are very, very stringent. If anybody's punched, they're out for at least the 10-minute sin bin, or maybe even on report for something further, after the game. Yep. And I think that's a really big step forward, because what I was seeing when I was walking the beat in Mackay CBD, maybe 2004, 2005, people thought they were on a rugby field. They thought they were just, that was what you did. You got annoyed, you just punched somebody, as if it was just a translation or a mirror of exactly what was happening on the field that they'd either seen in real life or on television. And, I go back to I suppose in the 1990s, for some unknown reason, the streakers ran onto the field in cricket. They probably still do, but it's not advertised. And way back then, there was probably an unwritten rule said, as soon as a streaker runs on the cricket field, we just move the cameras off. We don't show any of that. The editor, will hit the button and say, no, we're moving to the scoreboard, or we're moving to an ad break, or whatever it might be. And I think that attitude would be really good if we started that here. As soon as the players start playing outside the game physically, they'd remove any vision, and it's not shown again. And that would be a really good step forward, because it would just show to the public that, hey, we don't tolerate this sort of behavior. We love the game. We love a tough game, because that's what it's all about. And some of those guys are really putting their lives on the line when they're in the actual game. As soon as that whistle goes or something happens which is outside the game, the camera should be off there.
Yeah, not promote it.
That's right.
Actively. Yeah, I think it definitely has changed, and for the better, and especially now also, protecting the head is coming, concussion.
Yeah.
There's lots of little changes happening with that. But
yeah, and that's really good, because, at the end of the day, they're all fathers, they're all sons.
Yeah, and the women too.
Yeah.
Definitely in the same boat. Anything further you can raise from within our community that you're seeing that has been positive, and some positive changes from your time within the police force, especially in this area of assaults? And
it's really encouraging to see that young people at schools are actually getting hold of this, and I try and tell them what an assault is, because an assault is a word which really needs to be defined. And when we go to the academy, we have about 2 pages of assault definitions to learn. So I break it up much simpler than that for the key words, and the key words are strike, moves, or touches. That's almost the first part of the definition. But the 2 words at the very, very beginning are the important ones. Any person. That's you, me. It's the guy mowing the grass out on the field. It's the guy who's down in the pub. It's the lady. It's the gentleman in the relationship. Any person does any of those 3 things, strikes, touches, or moves, that is an offence. Now, I then say to the kids, I said, there's another part of the definition that says without consent. I said, when do you actually consent to be assaulted? I then bring it straight back to rugby league or boxing or one of the martial arts, because you're going in there to test your ability with all that striking, moving, and touching within the rules of the game.
Yeah.
But if you move into the car park after the game, and the guy who you've been on at or the whole match, he comes up and tackles you again, that's outside the game, isn't it? It's quite clearly it's not part of the game. And the kids start recognizing that. They say, yeah, we'll keep the physical action to the field or to the boxing ring, and we won't have it in our community, being our school. And that's really important. And what I also say is, if you ever see a fight happening, just be very careful, because if you provide any positive encouragement to the person who's doing the assaulting, go on, hit him harder, I don't like him either, kick him, he's fat, ugly, go on, hit him harder, whatever it might be. And that turns out to be a murder because of the head hitting the concrete in some way, or the blow hitting the head so hard that the person loses consciousness. That can really be difficult for you to get out of, because you could be party of that offence. And especially nowadays, fights all over the place are all filmed. There's audio. And if we need to, we will audio track that voice. If it's a murder investigation, we don't leave many stones unturned. And the young people suddenly start saying, oh, hang on a minute, that could happen to me. I'm a bystander, what should I do? So then I give them a little bit of an idea of what they could do. So I've made up this mnemonic. It's simple, because I like simple things, because they seem to work better. It's DIG. Distract, intervene, and get help. So firstly, if it looks like the fight's about to happen, distract in some way. Say, hey, there's pizzas, free pizzas at the tuck shop. And most of the blokes would be off those. I would be. It might be, oh, there's this teacher coming around the corner. Something like that. Just a distraction. Just to give that couple of moments when the parties can disappear.
Yeah.
The other one is intervene. Now, this is a dodgy one, because police officers, we've got a lot of kit around ourselves, and we can go and intervene at the late night bars and pubs and so on. Don't want kids doing that. That's not what it is. But if you were walking past a primary school and there were 2 kids who were grade 2 or 3 having a go at each other, and you're a grade 12 boy, I would expect, or girl, I would expect you to say, hey, hang on a minute, let's go and talk to the principal about this. This is not what you should be doing on the streets. Intervention can happen, but it's not exactly the right thing to do all the time. And then the other one is G, to get help.
Yeah.
How many people don't have a mobile phone these days? 000, run to the teachers, run to the principal, run to the servo down the road. Get somebody to start getting some help there. And that DIG mnemonic, as I call it, is gone virtually through every high school. All the high school kids who are listening to this will say, yeah, Nigel told us that. And that helps you not just being a bystander, it becomes an upstander, somebody who actually goes and does something about that situation.
So you talked about the filming of violence, and is there any laws that are coming into place where the promotion of it online and is that?
But if it involves a child, that's somebody who's under 18, it could be child exploitation material. Child exploitation material is sexual images, sexual contact, but it also includes violence. So if it would be up to each individual case. It's not a very easy answer to say yes or no, there is legislation. We would have to look at the evidence which is there. But certainly that evidence that's been recorded on a mobile phone is really very useful. We don't want it to be shared. We want it to go to the principal, go to the person in authority to say, that's what actually happened at the fight, sir. You know, you might want to pass that on to the police, and then we can actually see who was the antagonist, who was the perpetrator, or whatever it might be. So it's really important for us to look at that. As opposed to the legislation, it's a tricky one. I don't know if anybody's ever been prosecuted for filming something which is just a fight. But it could be fitting into the child exploitation legislation of the criminal code.
Yeah, obviously what we don't want is it shared and promoted on social media. And
that's right.
You know, it's the opposite to what we're talking about now is, promoting and campaigning for an assault-free zone. The other one is that I wanted to bring up from what you just talked about is, intervening. Sometimes the people who jump in to do the right thing and pull someone out end up getting... becoming the victim as well.
And that's why I clarified that intervention is a really tricky one to work out. You need to understand that you are putting yourself in a really difficult situation. I have a video from it didn't happen when I was working in the UK, but I came across it on the internet. There's a film of a truck driver has been cut up quite clearly by a car. We don't see that bit, but you can quite see that the car is at an angle. And the truck driver gets out and starts pulling the driver out of the car, and he doesn't entertain any conversation. It's just straight on with some blows around the head. The guy gets out of the car, and he's quite a good fighter, and it basically turns out to be a fight on the street. The one person who comes in to sort that out is a cyclist on his bicycle, in his Lycra gear, just goes across and says, "Hey, stop that." And it's very powerful when you see that, because that is what we want people to do. Just be nice and calm and gentle. If you think it's appropriate, and I don't say it's appropriate in every situation. If I'm driving along off duty and I have my family with me, I might not be actually going into intervention. I'll be hitting the 000.
Yeah.
And that's somebody who's been a police officer for a few years.
Fortunately, I haven't been in that situation, and if I was to, you definitely got to weigh up whether you're in the right environment to jump in or not, because there's a lot that you don't know as well.
But what do you remember from your growing up years of those sort of altercations which happened out of nowhere?
Yeah, well, you think straight back to school, and there was always fights at school. Unfortunately, they're starting in the schoolyard, and or start in the classroom probably first, and you end up being out in the schoolyard with big packs of people, and sometimes the teachers don't even jump in because
it's a difficult place to be.
And the authorities have to get called sometimes. Always definitely you avoid those situations. I think the biggest thing, and even like the football field, is you never want to jump in and make it bigger than it needs to be, and you're pulling people out, and you need to lead by example. That's probably the one thing I recall and remember is you need to be on the field, showing to be the one leading that example to make sure that it doesn't escalate. And because you see it, and I've seen it in junior grand finals where all of a sudden it's the whole crowd that's in there.
Yeah, and that's where the captains have to be chosen carefully, because captains and leaders within the organisation, whether it be hockey, basketball, whatever, have to be the people who actually think clearly in a heated situation. And when they are in control, the whole thing seems to be in control, which is great. You might get somebody who is a little bit excited and gets excited in that situation, and they're a captain. That is really not very good. So. It's a really tricky one, and I think back to my days at school. Goodness, that seems like almost a century ago, and there were fights there, and it was the sort of pack mentality, the Lord of the Flies type of thing of there was going to be a winner within the school, within your grade.
With pride on the line.
That's right, and it was tricky stuff. It wasn't nice, and there were some bad injuries, but by the grace of God, we got all the way through it. I was never on the receiving end or never on the giving end, but I was certainly had been in those big corrals of kids egging people on. And it's a tough place.
Yeah. You grow up quick.
Yes.
Let's touch on the footy. I was going to say let's go to a more positive note, but we ended up going down by 2 points to the Pride, and the boys ran out of puff just at the end there. But it was a great game. Nevertheless, it was live on KO. I think we had a pretty good audience, good crowd in, and unfortunately, it's not going our way at the moment. But we've got to bye this weekend, so the guys can rest up and go again.
You never know; it'll just change. Just something will click, and it'll just happen, won't it?
Yeah, fingers crossed. We've got faith in that happening. So. On to Wynnum the following week, and then we're back here June 12th against Tweed Seagulls. So HTC team went down as well, but the Gold Stars got up. The girls are flying the flag at the moment. They're going really good. So they'll go into the finals next weekend in Brisbane, I'm pretty sure. So good luck to all the girls in the finals coming up.
Absolutely.
Especially the Mackay girls. What have you got coming up this weekend?
Well, I've just been away swimming in the Great Barrier Reef Games, so I'm grounded now.
Yeah, recovery.
Recovery. Basically, back into the pool, get those shoulders rolling over again.
So let's quickly touch on what you've just gone and done. So the Masters Games.
Yeah, that's right. The Great Barrier Reef Masters Games in Cairns. Happens, I think, every 2 years, and I think they missed last year because of that thing called COVID. Yeah. So they had it this year. There was representatives from every state and territory in Australia, and quite often they get people from overseas as well. I think a couple of years ago they had certainly people from Brazil and Mexico came across. It's a fun sport to be involved in because you don't swim against necessarily in the race against somebody who's your own age. I could jump on the blocks and be next to somebody who is 10 years older than me. And all the big guns go at the beginning. Yeah. They're all the big tough fellas who are still swimming, got a little bit of weight on them, but they've still got the technique and so on. And the shorter races, they can blast those out. And then you progress up. And there was somebody there who's 90 years old.
It's impressive.
Just swimming away.
Pretty great to see too.
Oh, fantastic! And every race was, we were clapping all the time of people doing the great stuff, and you meet people who become good friends, all over Australia, and you catch up with them when you go to that city or that town, and it's a really good Masters. I think it's fun, friendship, and fitness. I think is the three things.
And what's the qualifying age?
18. 18 to 25 is the first age group. Then it goes into 5-year blocks all the way up to 100 to 105, I think.
Okay. Do you have to qualify?
No qualification. Just turn up, and it's some of the Masters competitions. You have to be a member of Masters. So we're a member of the North Mackay Sinkers here in Mackay, but then games like we've just had at the weekend, you can be what they call unattached. So you can just rock up for the competition.
Great. Your results?
I got 3 golds, silver and 3 bronze, one of which was in a relay. So I was pretty happy with 9 events. So I got placed in 7 of them. So
congratulations!
I was happy with that.
Great result. Well, thank you very much, Sergeant Dalton, for your time and sharing some of your experiences in the force and also within your community too. So
thanks, Mitch.
Yeah, loved having you on. Definitely a campaign that Mackay Cutters we're proud to also support and promote. I'm just looking around here in our level 2 corporate area. We need to get some signs up. So
absolutely.
We'll definitely reach out and get a few of those and put them up in here. And this is an assault-free zone.
Absolutely. And the whole of our community should be.
Yeah. See you next time for Change the Game Vodcast podcast.
Change the Game. Proudly brought to you by the QCCS Mackay Cutters.